Hey everybody, Eric Hayden here in the garden today. I want to do an update on after mulch, before a heavy rain. I want to focus on a couple things that I just did in the garden. I harp on this all the time. Knowing the weather is so important. You can't control it. You can't make it rain when you want it to or not when you don't. But by having a good knowledge of the upcoming forecast, as long as it works with your schedule, you can get a lot of things done when you're supposed to do it. So for example, I still have a tiny bit of black spot in the garden. I wanted to spray again, and I looked ahead at the forecast, and the forecast was for tonight to have some heavy rain. So I did the spraying many days ago. I got the mulch done many days ago. I don't want to spray right before rain and have the effectiveness washed off. So I did so before it was forecast to rain. So any of these lingering black spot issues should be taken care of. Same thing with the mulch. Who wants to put down mulch during rainy or drizzly weather? So last Thursday I began the mulching, got the spraying done, and I finished that up yesterday. Today's one more dry day, and again, that forecast hasn't changed. For tonight, we are expecting up to 1 inch of rainfall. So back in mid-February, I did my first dose of pre-emergent. And this pre-emergent that I'm using is Snapshot. I've never used one before. Excuse me. Lots of pollen here for sure. I've never used a pre-emergent before. I chose Snapshot. It was one of the more cost-effective ones, but also one of the more effective pre-emergents for flower beds. It's not designed for the grass. I applied this in mid-February, and according to the instructions, you can apply it again 60 days later. Some of it probably got disturbed with my application of mulch and walking in the garden. So instead of waiting a full 60 days, I'm redoing it 6 weeks later. And that's pretty consistent with what my lawn care person does. He did a pre-emergent in mid-February. He just did a reapplication just a week ago. And that's pretty typical. Doing your first two are the most important. Your one in late winter before everything gets going, and then one in early spring. That will get you right through the spring months. If you want to do a third application in late spring or in early fall, that's fine, but the majority of your weeds are going to be late winter through spring in terms of issues. So back to the point of the forecast. Snapshot, like a lot of pre-emergents, needs to be watered in. You don't want to put it down and then let it sit for a couple days. So you either have to hand water it or wait for rainfall. In this case, we're expecting a good soaking rain tonight, so I went ahead and put it down. And it's probably pretty hard to see. On this mulch, if you look very carefully, you can see those yellow little looking things. Let's see if I can point one out right there. That is the pre-emergent. Couple schools of thought. Some folks put pre-emergent down first and then do a mulch, and you can also put it on top of the mulch. Research and things I saw online show that it doesn't make a huge difference. The reason why I did it this way, I put a lot of fertilizer down and then I did the mulch, and I wanted my pre-emergent on top because my theory was if I put down that pre-emergent on top of the soil and then the mulch on top of it, I may be disturbing it because I'm walking in the beds. In addition, if it gets washed in a little too much, it's going down into the first couple inches of soil, I may have some weeds that are in between the top of the soil and the mulch that germinate. You've probably seen this before, weeds actually germinating in the mulch itself. Mulch helps to suppress weeds, but I find it more effective for controlling moisture and controlling soil temperature extremes than I do as a weed prevention. So in this case, I want it to be washed in, and then hopefully it will find itself right at the bottom of my mulch layer and at the top of the topsoil itself. So we'll see how things go, but I'm incredibly happy. My two biggest work issues in the garden by far are watering, and we installed the drip irrigation to take care of that last year. And then the other one by far is weeding. I've got 7 beds, about 100 square feet, and it takes at least an hour to hand weed these. And I would have to do it sometimes 2 to 3 times a year. So by doing a pre-emergent in midwinter, mid to late winter, another one in early spring, and then anytime I see a little weed pop up, I'm going to just squirt a little bit of Roundup on it. I know you got to be really careful. You certainly don't want to get any on your roses, but look at that weed as an example. I can easily pluck that out or spray a little Roundup on it, and it'll be pretty easy to control. So that's an update on the pre-emergence. It's sunny out now, but we're expecting that rain tonight. That will wash that in quite nicely. Last thing I want to leave you with, the other day we did an update on the maiden roses. This is Cajun Moon. Might be hard to tell from the camera, but that thing is really pushing out. Let's see if I can zoom in on that. And I apologize, it looks a little blurry. My camera phone's not focusing, but that's looking good. I've got it potted up and facing toward the south, so it's getting the most sun it can get. And then the other one that's looking good, Maverick, it's probably really hard to tell. The main bud has pushed out and even two side buds next to it. So that's looking good as well. Have not fertilized it, certainly don't want to put pre-emergent on that. Just pot it up, let it sit there and do its thing in the coming weeks. So that's it. We're sitting pretty here in the garden. Mulch is down, fertilizer's down, pre-emergent is down. I even had a little time last night to do some liquid feeding. I'll do a video on that, or if you scroll down, you can see I did a video in the past on how I do liquid feeding in the garden. So I'm expecting, with the rain tonight, cooler weather this week, but still 60s, these roses are going to take off. You can tell they're quite leafed out already, but you're going to see a lot of growth here in the coming week. Hope everybody's enjoying the weather where they are. Hopefully it's nice, and you enjoyed this update on our second application of pre-emergent. Have a great one.